This week, Justin Trudeau's Liberals defied medical experts in almost all of the provinces and territories who called on the Liberals to put an indefinite pause on the radical and dangerous plan to provide MAID to persons who are suffering from mental illness. Instead, the Liberals introduced a bill to kick the can down the road so that MAID for mental illness will be implemented in March of 2027, 3 years from now, instead of this March. The Liberals, in other words, are moving full steam ahead with MAID for mental illness despite overwhelming evidence that it cannot be implemented safely or appropriately, including fundamental clinical issues such as the difficulty, if not impossibility, of determining whether someone with a mental illness will get better. As a result, persons who are suffering from mental illness will have their lives prematurely ended if this radical liberal plan is implemented. Indeed, leading experts, leading psychiatrists have said that clinicians could get that wrong 50% of the time in terms of whether someone will get better. And so what MAID for mental illness really means is flipping a coin on people's lives. Despite the overwhelming evidence that MAID for mental illness cannot be implemented safely, the Liberals are ideologically determined to move forward. That was demonstrated by comments made by Justin Trudeau's health minister, Mark Holland, who said that the government actually has a moral imperative to implement MAID for mental illness. A moral imperative to do what exactly? A moral imperative to give up on people? A moral imperative to offer death instead of help to persons who are struggling? That's what Mark Holland claims the government has a moral imperative to do. It speaks, frankly, to the moral bankruptcy of Justin Trudeau's Liberals. And by the way, when we talk about MAID for mental illness, who would qualify? That question was posed to the chair of Justin Trudeau's appointed so-called expert panel on MAID for mental illness, who said that anyone with a condition listed in the DSM-5. What conditions are listed in the DSM-5? Well, things like depression, schizophrenia, personality disorders, persons who are struggling with addictions. Those are people that Justin Trudeau's health minister, Mark Holland, claims the government has a moral imperative to offer death to through the provision of MAID. It's frankly disgusting. Now, as bad as it is, there is a glimmer of hope, and that is that the Liberals have kicked the can down the road by 3 years, which means that this radical plan will not take effect until after the next federal election. And so Canadians will have a choice. They have a choice between Justin Trudeau's morally bankrupt Liberals who want to offer death to persons who are struggling versus a common sense conservative government that will scrap this radical and dangerous liberal experiment that gambles with people's lives.